So, I've been put into self-isolation, as I've come across not one but two people who've tested positive for COVID. Don't worry, everyone is fine, but it means that I just have to stay at home now all the time. Guess I'll just have to do some work from home, eh? Ha 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 ha, work. By work I of course mean play old games. So I was having a think, and I remembered that I used to have a lot of old Disney and Pixar games at home when I was young, so I thought, hey, what better time than now to crack them out and give them a go? God, I forgot how good some of their games actually are. For some reason, I decided to start with the one that I care the least about, I guess to get the disappointment out of the way. But anyway, let's start this journey with a trip to Atlantis. Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Search for the Journal, and Trial by Fire were both developed by Zombie Studios and published by Disney Interactive in early and mid-May 2001 respectively, followed by the film releasing soon after in June. Note that there is also another game, simply titled Atlantis, The Lost Empire, developed for PS1 by Eurocom, which I have not played and this video is not about. I remember having Search for the Journal when I was younger. I think it came free with some Kellogg's cereal. Why does every game I have nostalgia for end up having come from a cereal box? I swear to God. But I never had Trial by Fire, and I actually hadn't watched the film until about a week ago, when I decided I should probably finally get around to it before I played the games. Booting up the game, we have this pretty cool Disney Interactive splash screen in the theme of the film, followed by a clip that supposedly was meant to be the opening for the film before it was scrapped. A Viking warship is trying to locate Atlantis using the journal before succumbing to the same fate as all those who try to find the ancient city. Skipping forward to 1901, you were working under Thaddeus Thatch, Milo Thatch's grandfather, on an expedition in Iceland to find and bring back the Shepherd's Journal, which contains a map to the lost empire of Atlantis. The game is split into levels, where each level begins with this text-heavy list of objectives, although they seem to be explained in-game through dialogue as well, thank God, as I can't imagine many children would read all of this. The game starts with a fly-through animation from the main ship through an icy valley to the boat we enter the game on, where we take control of our character in a first-person view. This is quite unusual for a children's game, where most kids' games are third-person platformers. This first section is just an on-rails boat ride, presumably to show off the graphics, which are okay, I suppose? I like the colours used, with the glowing red lava contrasting well with the inky water and frozen walls of the cavern. Having reached the shore, the game directs us to take a trek through the snow, where now we are fully in control, and it's revealed that the game is actually a first-person shooter? As it's Disney though, and the children must be protected at all costs from violence, you don't have a gun, but instead you can use various tools to attack enemies. Initially, you have the default tool, which is essentially blast of energy or fire, and you pick up a Froster tool, which can also slow down enemies. Tools are powered by energy, which can be replenished by picking up red crystals, and your health can be recovered with blue shields. You come across a few keepers along your way, which can be killed, de-rezzed as the game calls it, and teleported away with a few hits of your tools. There are a few cute environmental scenes, with some noisy wind and crunchy snow sound effects. A bit of light platforming leads you to the Whitmore Wing, a little glider plane thing, which you use to fly to the keep. Flying is meh. You can speed up and down, which is good. Turning is okay, but it's impossible to accurately tell how close you are to the roof or walls of a cave, so I just repeatedly crashed into it. And as your aircraft has about as much structural integrity as a paper plane, smashing into the ceiling is a one-hit kill. The environment is foggy, which is obviously due to hardware limitations for draw distance, but I think here it actually works well in masking the turns and obstacles coming your way. You reach the keep, a stony building with a bunch of keepers trying to stop you from reaching the journal. I was playing on medium difficulty, and even then their attacks would take away a large amount of health, causing me to die a few times. Reaching the journal room, you have to collect 4 talismans from 4 rooms, one for each element: water, fire, stone columns, and bad architecture? Oh god, I've got stuck on a bit of the environment. Who built this game?
We're all gonna die.
After collecting each piece, you have to return to the central room, attack any keepers, and place the talismans into the pedestal. When you have all 4, you descend to the journal room and collect that magic book everyone's been talking about. And that's the game over, in under an hour. You are rewarded with a trailer for the movie, which interestingly was not even out at the time of the game's release, followed by a trailer for Trial by Fire. I don't think I understood it at the time, but this game was clearly just intended to be a demo for the proper game, so what better time than now to try it out? In Trial by Fire, you play as Milo through the events of the film, starting off in the Ulysses as the Leviathan attacks, and I have to say, the interior of the ship looks suspiciously like the spaceship Von Braun from System Shock 2, although the Ulysses in the film does look very futuristic, so I'll let it slide. Heading to the escape pods, you find you need to activate their power supply, so you run off to turn on the electricity and battle back through the flooding ship and hot steam to make your escape. Setting off in a sub-pod, you have to follow your fellow explorers' pods through the tunnels, avoiding rock formations and de-resing Leviathan spawn, which can grab hold of your pod and batter you to death. Not gonna lie, this level is pretty awful. The idea is okay, but the controls are just not good enough to make tight turns, which would be useful to try and find wherever the hell the damn creature that's trying to eat you is. Again, much like the plane level, it's impossible to know how close the walls and ceiling are to your pod, and so crashing into them and destroying your ship are almost inevitable, especially because if you crash into a surface, your ship doesn't bounce back but just keeps ploughing forward, essentially causing instant death on most occasions. Eventually making your way through, you navigate along some rocky caves and valleys. You pick up a shrinking tool, useful for the insect enemies, and there were a few stressful encounters where a group of them tried attacking at once. I just want to mention about the various tools here. Although they all technically do different things, for example the Froster can slow down enemies, and the weird whirly thing can grab power-ups, almost all of them can be used to just attack enemies, so sometimes it's easier to just spam whichever tool you have equipped, and the enemy will probably de-res eventually. Generally though, this level is pretty drab and boring, and I got lost for like 10 or 15 minutes as I just couldn't tell where I had been or where I was going. Making it inside, your camp is attacked by fire-causing fireflies, and you have to escape, running across the bridge towards Atlantis before it collapses, where the plot kind of falls apart a little, as Rourke reveals his plans before you even make it to the city for some reason.
Now it's time for us to take that crystal and leave.
Having reached Atlantis, Kida asks you to collect 4 crystal shards before Rourke's men get them, who will now attack you at will when they spot you. These are probably some of the better levels of the game. The maps are more complex than those previously in the game, with some swimming sections too, which somehow are not actually that bad. My only complaint would be is that you run out of oxygen a little too quickly, but even then I don't think I ever died because of it. Atlantis also has a beautiful use of colour, with pale pastel blues, greens and lilacs, and a few pretty architectural and design features. There are puzzles you must complete to collect the shards, such as activating certain switches, collecting talismans, and my favourite, playing a tune with these beautiful windpipes. Overall though, not too tricky. Rourke's men can be a bit aggressive here, so watch out, but you do get this super powerful tool, so use it to your advantage. They've also managed to collect the Mother Crystal, so you give chase on an Atlantean aircraft, shooting them down, teleporting them away to safety. Thank God this section isn't as hard as the other vehicle sections, and it was maybe even enjoyable? Reaching the base of the volcano, you find Rourke trying to escape in his hot air balloon. You have to climb up through the cave system to avoid the rising lava, while shooting down the balloon through the openings in the cave walls, avoiding any creatures along the way. This section was a little bit odd, as there was no indication that your attacks were working, as all of a sudden the level just kinda ended with him randomly sinking into the lava, where I'm assuming his body was safely de-resed without any harm coming to him, of course. However, the volcano is now about to completely erupt, so the stone giants must be activated with the crystal shards you collected earlier. The 4 giants are the 4 classic elements. First up is the air trial, where the volcanic air currents must be ridden to reach the top. This level was probably one of the most infuriatingly annoying levels I've had to get through in any game in a long time. Kida reassures you that the air jets can hold you up.
Have faith, Milo. The air will hold you.
Honestly, honey, I beg to differ. I just kept falling down. I don't know what I was doing wrong. Am I jumping wrong? Am I jumping at the wrong time? And meanwhile the jets are killing you because they're hot.
Have faith, Milo.
Throughout the whole game, you have to restart the level from the beginning of the level if you die, which isn't too much of an issue as the levels themselves are pretty short, but it can be super frustrating when you keep dying at the same part due to poor controls, an infuriating lack of spatial awareness, or just being an idiot. And having to hear the same bloody voice lines over and over again.
The air will hold you.
No, the air won't bloody hold me up. Stop lying. Speaking of the voice lines though, they are generally pretty good, and I think a lot of the same cast as the film did lines for the game too, which is pretty cool.
Now I won't sugarcoat this for you, kid. Do you see the journal anywhere?
Step lively, kid. You're at our old campsite.
This place is bigger than the World's Fair.
Eventually making it up to the top, the first giant is activated. The Earth trial has you dodge falling rocks and uneven footing, with some enemies thrown in for good measure. The water trial is pretty simple, just walk up a series of aqueducts and a bit of swimming. The fire trial is another escape the rising lava situation, with rickety wooden bridges that could break at any moment. This level was okay, but I found it pretty hard due to poor control of the character. In fact, I found throughout the game that Milo can be a bit slippery, and pressing forwards can sometimes cause you to walk more than you intended, causing you to just slip to your death. Slip to your deresment. Generally, it wasn't a huge issue, but it was super annoying in a level that involved tiny platforms and tight controls, as well as time pressure with the rising lava. However, I eventually made it, activating the last giant just in time before the volcano completely exploded and one of the final scenes from the film is shown. Weird digital keyder just says,
"Okay, thanks, bye."
And that's it. Or at least, that's it for the single player game. That's right. As well as making you suffer through all of that, Disney also thought you crazy masochists would love the ability to play with other poor souls tricked into buying the game, with about 8-ish different maps and game modes such as deathmatch, racing and capture the flag. I'm sure it was a hoot and a half. I had a look at some of the maps and they're based on some of the levels in the game, with more complex designs including tunnels and water channels that link up different areas. Of course, I was unable to play actual online games due to no one, not a single person on God's earth, wanting to go within 6 feet of this so-called game. And looking up reviews, it looks like no one did back when it was released either, with reviewers commenting on a lack of people in online servers. All in all, the two games took about 3 hours to casually play through. I'm assuming for kids add a couple more hours on top of that, but even still, with little reason to return to the single player and no one playing online, Disney really did a disservice to this film with these games. Having played these games, I'm not really sure what the point of them was. Released before the film came out, you'd think this game would ruin the plot of the film, but at the same time, these games weren't really that good at telling you what the plot was, so who are all these characters? They're never explained, just, oh, okay, I'm helping this woman now. The graphics and art style were good at times and lacking at others, and the gameplay ranged from good to God, why am I playing this? To me, it seems like Disney was kind of trying to be a bit overambitious by including a multiplayer, and they should have just spent more time and money into the main single player game. Overall, I feel like this game was a bit uninspired and a bit simple, but it's such a waste of potential because there's so many ideas that they could have brought to the table. I think it's a shame that Disney didn't take full advantage of the Atlantis franchise, to be honest. I'm going to go ahead and assume no one on this planet played this game, but if you did, leave a comment, tell me what you think. If you like this video, please subscribe to see what I do next. There will be a few more Disney games coming up, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
Have faith, Milo. The air will hold you.
We're all gonna die.